In this session, we will understand the concepts of classes and objects, which forms the basis of object-oriented programming. Before we start with the topic of objects and classes, we need to understand the concept of object-oriented programming. So what is object-oriented programming? It is a programming method where we define data in form of structures and define functions to work on these structures. We store data in the form of variables in these structures. The data and methods of the structure is accessed using an object which represents that structure. This way, many structures can interact with each other using objects. Using object-oriented programming, it is easy to develop modular programs which are easy to maintain and update. Object-oriented programming is not a programming language. It is a programming model on which programming languages are built. Programming languages follow the principles of object-oriented programming. Classes and objects are part of this model. Class is a data structure which holds the data members and methods. Using an object of the class, the methods and data members can be accessed. Classes can use functions and attributes from other classes by means of inheritance, just like in parent-child relationship. The child class can access all the functions and data members of the parent class. A class is a structure to store user-defined data. It is created by using the keyword class, followed by the class name. The body of the class contains data members and functions called methods. In object-oriented programming, a class can inherit its attributes from its base class. The child class inherits data definitions and methods from the parent class. This way we can reuse any features which are already available. The child class can add few more definitions or redefine a base class method. Classes are blueprints for creating new kind of objects. Once a class is defined, we can create many individual objects. Classes are not only used for representing data, but also for structuring programs and providing a framework. Well-written classes will make the programs easier to understand. Now we try to understand what is an object. We cannot access the methods of the class directly, so we need an instance of the class to call its methods in the program. This instance is called an object. To create the object, we call the class name with its arguments and assign it to the new variable. In the example, we can see that we define a variable and call customer class with the required arguments. These arguments initialize the data members of the class through a special function called constructor, which we will see next. The new variable becomes the object of the class, and we can access the methods of the class using this object and dot operator. Now when we create a new object of a class, a special function of the class is called and the new object is created. This special function is called constructor since it is called at the time of constructing the object of the class. The constructor is passed with an argument called self, which is reference of the newly created object of the class. The self keyword argument is used to access the attributes and methods of the class within the class itself. All functions defined within the class should have self keyword as their first argument to access the data members defined in the class. Constructor function is declared in Python with a special name initialize with double underscore on both sides. It is a special reserved variable in Python. Apart from default argument of self, which is passed automatically by Python, we can pass any number of arguments to the constructor at the time of creating the class object to initialize the data members. Many programming languages use properties which have get and set methods in a class to encapsulate data. In Python, the property method takes the get, set and delete methods as arguments and returns an object of property class. The property object is accessed directly by the class object, but internally it will invoke the get or set methods. In Python, there is no need of main function. The reason why main function is used is that it allows us to run the script file as standalone program or as a module. Python has a special variable called name. When we run the script directly in the interpreter, this variable is set to another special variable called main. But when we import the same script in another script as module, then the name variable is set to module name. This way we can use the script in different ways. When the name variable is set to main, the main function is invoked and main function body is executed. Whereas when the name variable is set to module name, main function is not called. Now let us take an example of class and understand its syntax and structure. In the editor, we define a class customer using class keyword. A colon is required at the end to complete the definition. Inside the class, we define data members and assign initial values to it. Constructor function is defined using special variable initialize. with the required arguments to initialize the data members which we have defined. Now to use property object, we define get and set methods and pass it to property function. The property variable can be accessed as a regular data member by the class object, and internally it will invoke the get and set functions. We define other functions as required inside the class. In the script, we use main function as the driver function. Inside the main function, we define customer variable, which is the object of the class customer. Using the customer object, we access the methods and properties of the customer class. When the script is run, the name variable is set to main and the main function is called.